All righty, gang. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we go. Today's show is all about the white sea bass, the gray ghost, the ultimate fish in Southern California that you all want to catch. Today's show is going to be all about the white sea bass. Yes, it is. It's going to be all about white sea bass today. We're going to talk how to kind of unwrap the mystery of the white sea bass. I know there's a lot of you that know how to fish them and you're very, very good at it, but there's a lot of you that don't. And so we're going to get into that today. And today's a pretty sad day for Captain Dave Hansen. My good friend, my buddy, my pal, probably not going to make it through the day today. I'm having a hard time with this one. This is a very close personal friend. We've done a lot of really cool things together over the years. And I'm down here in Mexico and he's up in Hoag Hospital. And I'm going to today's show is a tribute to Mr. Steve Campbell. Steve's been in this industry for a very, very long time. He's a very, very close personal friend, and he's helped out many of you with your private boats, with your yachts. And the word from his wife is he's probably not going to make it through today. And if he does, he won't be here tomorrow. So I have a hard time with that. I'm having a rough time, gang. So bear with me. My buddy, he's at Hoag Hospital. If anybody knows Steve Campbell, you know he's a fighter. He's a great human being. And I'd like to dedicate today's show to Steve Campbell. All right. That being said, let's get going on this thing. So, one of the great mysteries to white sea bass fishing is, you guys, a lot of people think this fish lives on the bottom. That's nothing could be further from the truth, gang. This fish lives in that upper water column, and a lot of people leave their bait laying on the bottom when they white sea bass fish. And how many of you sorry, I'm just reading comments. How many of you guys have been fishing white sea bass and you guys caught a bat ray or a shovel nose shark or a stingray or a leopard shark? It's because you leave your bait laying on the bottom. Yep, Steve Campbell, what a champ. Sorry. So, when you're fishing sea bass, gang, you don't want to leave your bait laying on the bottom. If you guys have seen a sea bass, their mouth is in front. It's not on the bottom like a plunger, like a bat ray, like a shovel nose shark, like a leopard shark. Their mouth is out in front, like a tuna. Look at a picture of a white sea bass. Their mouth is in front. So therefore, so there is the biggest mistake all of you make is leaving your bait laying on the bottom. As soon as your bait touches the bottom, you have to wind it back up and throw it back out. We talk a lot about dropper loop fishing, and that's going to keep your bait suspended off the bottom. You're going to use a torpedo sinker, a 4-ounce or a 6-ounce, but 18 inches above that's where your hook's going to go. That's going to keep your bait off the bottom. Yeah, so if your bait hits the bottom, you've got to wind it back up and throw it back out. But if you're fishing a dropper loop, you want that loop 18 inches above your weight. That way, that squid, if you're fishing squid beds, which we'll talk about squid beds and we'll talk about fishing on the beaches. But if you're fishing a squid bed, gang, you drop that squid down with your dropper loop or with a white lure, and you're going to keep that thing up off the bottom 18 inches. That's where those sea bass are swimming around, picking off those squid that are coming up off the bottom, off the squid nest. That's crucial, is to make sure you got your bait off the bottom. It's going to change what you catch from today forward if you just can remember that. Yeah, I'm going to do the best I can, Matt. That's all I can do. And I can't sit here and worry about what's going to happen. I'm powerless over it. So I'm going to do the show, and that's going to get me through today, and it's going to be a great show. And Steve would have loved that because we're talking about one of his favorite fish. So gang, when you get out there to the squid grounds, now that's fishing in 120, 130 feet of water. You're going to fish those nests, and you're going to see that squid's going to be laying on the bottom like a fuzz, if your color meter, it's going to be like a yellow fuzz. And if you're dark or amber meter, it's going to be just like a grainy little dirt fuzz down on the bottom. That's going to be your squid nest. Then above that squid nest, you're going to see squiggly little worms. We call them worms all the time. They look like snakes out kind of on the meter. That's going to tell you there's some fish on that squid nest, okay, during the day. During the nighttime, that squid's going to come up off the bottom, and you're going to see that squiggly lines, those worm marks in between the squid and the bottom, and they're going to be in there wiggling around. And then you're going to fire down the white jig, or you're going to fish the dropper loop, and you'll be, lo and behold, you'll be super surprised at how easy that fish is in the dark underneath the squid on a squid nest at night. One thing I can promise you, though, is if you're going to fish that squid nest at night, you want to anchor up on it. You don't want to drift. You want to anchor up. You want to let that squid get up underneath your boat, start to spawn, do the things they do in the dark under the boat. And then that will, if there's some fish around, those fish are going to react to the squid reacting. So, yeah. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I can post down the line here. We have some pictures on the website. We can show you guys some stuff later. I don't really have anything to show you right now, but I'll show you pictures of what it looks like underneath the boat. But when you're fishing the squid nest and the squid's on the boat and it's nighttime, you want to put a rod in the rod holder with a dropper loop on it, with that dropper loop 18 inches above the sinker. And then you want to put another jig out, but you don't want that jig laying on the bottom. You want it to bounce. As the boat rocks, you want it to shoot up and then fall back down like it's going to the nest. And then as the boat rocks, it shoots back up. That looks like a natural squid. What I like to do is take a TLC lure. They're a chunk of metal. They're a chunk of metal, and you put a 6/0 side wash hook. That's a big 6/0, not circle hooks. We're talking J hooks. Put that on there, and then put 2 squid on the lure, and then have that thing bouncing up and down in the rod holder. Lo and behold, that'll get bit, and the dropper loop will get bit. You won't even know that you have one because you're busy catching bait. And then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, and you look over at your dropper loop rod or your rod with the TLC lure on it, and lo and behold, you got yourself a white sea bass. Now, here's the problem when guys are fishing these nests. That nest thing usually shows up while you're making squid, and then as soon as it gets light out, it's time to boogie. It's time to split. It's time to go look for some other fish. They don't have a have a tendency to bite uh, once the light comes on the squid nest. Now they're going to move up into the beaches, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But the squid nest is the easiest way to catch them. And right now, gang, there is literally squid everywhere, up and down the coast, at the islands. It's pretty much everywhere. And I would take advantage of catching squid right now to get as much squid as I can in my freezer. If I have a freezer, I'd get some squid in the freezer, get some squid so that when this sea bass shows up, you have plenty of bait. Because what you'll find is as soon as that sea bass shows up, you're going to have a hard time catching bait. It's just historically, that's the way it's been. Now, you can still catch bait. I'm not saying there won't be any bait because there won't be any sea bass if there's no bait, but it will get harder to catch. Why not fill the freezer up right now while there's squid everywhere? And today's show is sponsored by Okuma. We're going to talk about rods and reels and what rods and reels I think you need to use to catch these things. But I just want to show you, these guys were perfectly set up on a squid nest the other night. Danny, he's always getting them. He's always in there.
What's up, Dave? Thanks for the numbers. Check this out. Ho, ho, ho. You're the man. Look at all these birds. Exactly where you said they were. Appreciate that. And check this light out here. It's the light that we're using.
So what I'm showing you is
Squid Max light.
Typical squid float out at Catalina. That was full bore float. Danny sent me those videos. It was pretty spectacular. He's using the Promar squid braille to put that squid on his boat. It's got a 16-foot handle. You definitely want to have something. And then also we have videos of guys using the monofilament mesh net, throwing it over the side and catching squid. Those, you got to have something to catch the squid with. Your little bait net, that ain't gonna work. And chances of your transfer scoop, it's not going to have a long enough handle. You've got to have something with a long expandable handle to catch these squid with. So make sure you have plenty of ways to catch the squid jig, stuff like that, because that's the fish, the bait that these fish, these white sea bass want to eat. So you want to make sure you got bait. That's going to be a real issue if you get over to the island and you don't have any bait. And if you get out there, that's why I say get bait before you go, because you don't want to get over there and have it be a hard night of catching bait. And you can meter the fish under the boat, and you're metering sea bass under the boat, you're metering squid, but the stuff won't come to the surface, and you don't have any squid on the boat. How would that suck? So go catch as much squid as you can right now. If you don't have a boat, ask somebody, hey, let's go catch some squid. And this time of year, my God, if you guys are going to Catalina to catch lobsters, which a lot of us are, throw the squid light over in between sets and you can get as much squid as you want. That squid, we constantly talk about it on the game plan, where it's at. And like Danny, he just went straight to the numbers that I told him. And lo and behold, he filled his boat up with squid that he can use for bait the next time he goes out. Gang, it's going to be super important to have the bait. because when those sea bass are biting and you're over there at the island and you don't have the bait, that sucks. So you want to make sure you have plenty of bait, all right? And then you're fishing the dropper loop or you're fishing the white jig, but you're no longer laying your bait on the bottom. That is the biggest misconception I've ever seen sea bass fishing, is everybody puts their bait on the bottom and then goes to sleep or does something or walks away from their rod and leaves it in the rod holder. All you're going to get is a bat ray or a stingray or a leopard shark or a shovel-nose shark. You're not going to catch those sea bass. They got their mouth in front. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you're rigged up proper. 40-pound line is about the lowest I'm going to go. I'm going to get some GT4 fluorocarbon, tie myself a nice dropper loop, and I'm going to use 40 or 60 pound, because come on, it's dark when these things are biting. So you can get away with that heavier line. In the daytime, we'll talk about fishing on the beaches. It's going to be a little more strategic, but fishing on those squid grounds, you get away with 40 or 60 pound. I would 60 pound all day long, because I want one of those big tanker 50, 60 pound sea bass that are living on the bait grounds. And they live on the bait grounds. That's where you're going to get more of the big giant ones, the ones that you want to take a picture of. Your friends are all going to be impressed. Plus, gang, when that big sea bass comes up and you can finally see it under the light, that thing looks like a giant monster, gang, and these 20 and 30 pounders look humongous. Can you believe a 50, 60 pounder? That thing's going to look prehistoric. So make sure your line, you got plenty of fluorocarbon, heavy line. 50, 40, 50, 60 pound is what I'm going to rig up in the dark. And then I'm going to, hey, John, how you doing? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my reels can handle the hard pull, because here's what happens with the sea bass. They're going to make one run. And if you're on the bait grounds, oh my God, the longer he takes out the line, the better it's going to be for you, because he can't go anywhere. He's not going to any structure. Remember, you're fishing in the mud, in the sand, on the squid grounds. So these fish can't get to any type of structure because there's no structure around. So he's going to take off. And what I tell everybody is, when that fish eats your bait, don't panic. The number one thing people do when that fish starts to take string or line off the reel is they stop it with their thumb right away. When you do that, when you use your thumb as the drag system, pop. There it goes. Broke your line, or you pulled the hook. Now you got to get another bait on, tie another rig up, drop it back down, and try to get another bite. Remember, these white sea bass, they're called the gray ghost, and they're not called ghost for nothing, because they're hard to hook. So when you do finally hook one, why in the hell do you want to break it off right away? Let it take the drag. Let it take as much line as it wants. And I'll tell you something about on the beaches, structure fishing for them in a little bit. But when you hook them in the mud, you just hold your left hand in front of the reel, let him peel off a bunch of line. Don't ever put your thumb on there. Right hand on the crank, left hand in front of the reel. You can't. Even Wilt Chamberlain couldn't get his thumb on the spool. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar couldn't get his thumb on the spool. Why do you want to put your... If you're holding the rod and reel correctly, it's impossible. I see a lot of booger eaters that have TV shows and stuff that hold the reel and crank. How? It's about the dumbest way you could do it, gang. You have zero leverage. You're putting a bunch of torque on the reel and the rod and the reel seat. They're holding... They're full snot gobbling booger eaters, to be perfectly honest with you, the guys that are showing you fishing shows where they're holding the reel and fighting the fish. Oh my God, the torque on that reel seat is, I can't even think about it. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, but oh my God, so many quote unquote experts hold their, it's absolutely ridiculous. If you ask me, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Hold on one second. I want to show you what this is. Absolutely unbelievable, because I'm fishing in the surf. I'm going to be down there tonight, as a matter of fact. Check out these surf, this stuff that's going to work perfect in the surf real quick.
Hey guys, this is John Bretzel with Okuma Fishing Tackle. I have a very exciting new product for you for 2026. This is a new Rockaway SI. This reel is purpose-built for inshore anglers. It's also a great reel for any anglers that own, say, a Rockaway SP and they're doing that light surf fishing. Perfect for the West Coast or anywhere down along the Gulf in the Southeast. This reel is going to come in 4 different models. We're going to do a 2500, a 3000, a 4000, as well as a C5000 body. So all perfect for those applications I just mentioned. The body and side plates are injected out of C40X, so you don't have to worry about corrosion. It's a great reel, very maintenance free. The other key element to this body is it doesn't have the on-off and reverse selector. So at the bottom of the reel, that's one less area for water to intrude into the body. We also equip this reel with our Hydro Block 2 body system, and so what that does is it's gonna have rubber seals to prevent water from getting into the reel. This will not be a waterproof reel, but it's a great splash guard for normal fishing situations. This is gonna be a reel that's gonna really optimize your overall experience on the water. Now the drag system is gonna be carbonite. So if you got the 2 smaller sizes, you're gonna have 18 pounds of maximum drag. If you go up to the 4000, 5000, you'll get 24 pounds of max drag. Great stopping power, say you hook a big bull red or a big giant snook. It's gonna be supported by 5 high performance bearings, as well as our quick set and reverse roller bearing. In addition to that, these are gonna be full grease pack bearings with rubber seals to make sure there's no water intrusion, to make sure those ball bearings last as long as possible. As far as a platform internally goes, this features our HDG Plus gearing. What that is a larger diameter drive gear, and so it allows us to build a reel that has high speed gear ratios that are gonna be extremely durable and not gonna break down on big giant fish. So if you look at the 2500, 3000 size, it'll have a 6-to-1 gear ratio. When you get to the 4000, 5000, it'll come with a 6.2-to-1 gear ratio. Now, as far as technology and smoothness goes, what we've done is we've equipped this reel with our flight drive system. So when you turn that handle, this reel is gonna be extremely smooth and durable when you're casting lures all day in and out. The other thing that we featured in this reel is our GSS, or gear stabilizing system. What that is a supportive ball bearing on the top and bottom of the pinion gear, where a lot of spinning reels only have 1 ball bearing. This is gonna have 2 to make sure it's got proper precision alignment, so that this reel lasts a really long time when you're fishing on inshore environments. If you want to find out more information on the new Rockaway SI, check it out at a retailer near you or on OkumaFishingUSA.com.
Yeah, gang, check it out, OkumaFishingUSA.com. We'll throw a QR code up on the screen, and check it out, gang. There's so many great products at Okuma. I fish exclusively Okuma. That's my brand that I love. They're priced to the consumer. They work phenomenal. I love the Tesoro series reels, and so check it out. So now we've kind of left the bait grounds. We kind of have a half a clue of how to catch them now, and all this stuff that I'm talking about, we review all the time on Your Saltwater Guide, the website, and the members are always constantly talking about what they're seeing, where they're doing it at. But now let's go into the shallows and start to fish for these things. That's where I really like fishing for sea bass, because it's daytime. I'm not a vampire. I don't like to stay up all night to catch fish. I'm just not that guy. Back in the day, I stayed up all night, but we thought we were fishing, but we weren't. So what is going to happen now? We've moved into the shallows. We're going to make sure we got Captain Al's bait tuber. We got some sort of way to chum. All right. some way to chum. Hey, Cubby, Steve Campbell's probably not going to make it through the day. Just letting you know. His whole body's shutting down, bud. His whole body's shutting down. It's pretty sad. I saw you on here. So when you get into the shallows, gang, and if it's on the game plan, you know, we tell you where I would fish here, there, everywhere, da 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 da. What's going to happen is you get out there with your chum bucket or your chum tube, or you got some chopped up squid or some chopped up stuff. What you're going to do is you're going to drop the anchor. Super important. Drop the anchor. That'll establish yourself on the spot, okay? Then you're going to get this chum flowing into the water with your chum tube or however you're going to get the chum in the water, okay? Then you're going to fish a very, very small sinker. Now, a lot of the spots we fish sea bass at Catalina are 35 feet of water or less. So you don't need a lot of weight. You need like a 1/4 ounce, 1/8 of an ounce. I know, I'm just trying to let everybody know he was such a good human. But you want to not have your bait fire straight down to the bottom, especially because you're fishing so shallow. And when these things come through, they come through in like a sheet. There'll be like fish from the very top of the water to the very bottom, cruising along in a big, giant wave, if you will. So you're going to want to fish super shallow or super lightweight. And you're going to want to fish 30 pound. Yep, 30 pound. Not 20, not 15, 30. 30 pound. That's going to allow your bait to sink at a proper sinkage on the edges of the kelp or the edges of the structure or on the beach. You're not going to sink too quick, but then when you do hook that fish, you're not going to get broke off. Now, here's what's going to happen, and we'll go back into how in a minute. But when the fish bites it in the shallows, that sea bass is not a very intelligent fish. They're really dumb, as a matter of fact, but they're hard to hook. So that part's. But once you hook them, they're really dumb. So you fish a very, very small slider and 30 pound and a 4/0 or a 6/0 thin wire hook. Why thin wire? So that helps on the sinkage too. Everything matters. So you want it to sink down the water column in a manner where the fish can see it. Once it hits the bottom, wind it back in, throw it back out. Now at the same spot though, put your dropper loop down on the bottom, but you got to keep it 18 inches up again because you don't want it laying on the bottom. You don't want those leopard sharks and the shovel nose and all that shit to get your bait. So you want to keep it in that upper water column. You're only in 30 feet of water, so 18 inches off the bottom, you're in 35 feet of, or 30 feet of water. You're 18 inches off the bottom. You're going to catch way more fish. Okay? Now, when you hook it, that fish is going to do two things. He's going to swim away from you or he's going to swim towards you. When he swims away from you, he is not going into structure. I don't know why they don't. They could get away very easy if they went into the structure. They don't go into the structure. They don't go into structure, so you don't have to panic. But they have the smallest heart of all the fish in the ocean. So he's going to struggle quickly, and he's going to release a bunch of energy. And then at the end, you're just going to wind him up. Just don't panic. Like I said before, on the dropper loop fishing are the jigs in the deep water. Again, in the shallow water, don't panic. When you get bit, yay, you're bit. Hold the rod. If you can, hold the rod so the reel touches your chest. If the reel touches your chest, you're going to have a hell of a bend in the rod. That's going to kill him. That's going to kill the sea bass because he's going to go, are, and he's going to swim left, he's going to swim right, he's going to swim up, he's going to swim down, he's going to have a massive heart attack, he's going to die. If you've ever seen sea bass at the end of their fight, they're just laying there. Then you simply gaff them right here in the chest, pull them on the boat. You don't have to panic, and don't gaff them in the middle of the meat. When I see guys gaff those sea bass in the middle of the meat, I'm like, why? They're just laying there. They're dead. Don't panic, though. The panic is what causes all the heartache. It breaks your line every time. And when I say panic, it's put your thumb on the spool, bust the line off. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Hi, Lisa. Hi, John. Just don't panic. When you finally hook the fish, don't panic. Now, we put a chum tube out. We're catching blue perch and calico bass over and over and over again, okay? I don't know, Robert, did you send me your address? Let me know. Send it to me again. I'm a booger eater. Send it to me again. I promise. I'll get it out to you. But listen, here's what happens, and it happens all the time. And I hear this from my members, and so many people will tell me, Dave, all we were catching were blue perch and calico bass over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, and then what happened? Oh, we left. What? We left. Were you out of bait? No, we had plenty of bait. So you left fish to go find fish. That's incredible. Don't leave. I'm telling you, the next bait. Steve Campbell, I love you, buddy. I love you. I love you. I love you, bud. He's listening right now. Wow. Incredible. So, I'm sorry. So listen. Don't leave. Don't go looking for fish. You got them. They're right there. You're one bait away from that sea bass biting your line. You're one bait away from that sea bass eating your bait, or a yellowtail. All this commotion, that's what it takes. I've never, ever, ever been sea bass fishing, and all we caught were sea bass. There was blue perch, and there were calicos, and they were pecking on the baits in the shallows. Out in the deep water, yeah, straight sea bass, no problem. But on the beaches, they're peck. There's little peckers pecking. And then all of a sudden, you get just a steady pull because you're fishing in free spool. Remember, you're throwing your bait on the edge of the kelp or the edge of the structure, and you're letting it sink down, but you're in free spool. So when the bait is sinking down and it's getting pecked on, peck, all of a sudden that sea bass, the bite is the weirdest bite I've ever seen. So it almost feels like, to describe it to you, a 30, 40-pound sea bass feels like someone threw a handful of sand at your bait when it's setting in the water right there. It's just like, it's just a bite. And then you click it in gear and you wind the slack out of the line and you pull back a little bit thinking it's a calico or a blue perch. And lo and behold, all of a sudden the line starts peeling off your reel. That's all it is. And then it's peeling off your reel, you got a sea bass. You hold the rod. Maybe put the reel on your chest to put the bend in the rod. When I keep saying put the reel on your chest because that fish is taking it, and the only thing that's going to stop them is the bend in your rod. You're not going to stop them by putting your thumb on the spool. There has to be some drag. The line has to come off your reel, but the rod is going to stop him. And that's going to happen, and you got to be really careful, and you've got to be ready. So, gang, I'm kind of losing my shit right here. I love you so much, Steve. And I'm sorry I'm down here in Cabo and I'm not up there at Hoag Hospital with you right now. Believe me, I wish I was up there. I am going to end the show right now, gang. I love you guys. I love Steve. I love Nancy. I'm sorry I'm not there. But good luck, gang. Fish the way I say to fish and you'll catch the fish. I promise you. Fish the way you do and you'll eat plenty of boogers for the rest of your life. Don't be a booger eater, gang. Thank you very much, Okuma, for the sponsor of the show today. Thank you, every single person that's watching.